Well, it's nice to finally put my face back on this podcast, on this lovely video here. I'm back, and of course, we out here with another third intermission podcast episode for you this evening. Of course, in case you haven't remembered who I am, this is your boy Dave, of course, aka the Boss Man. Follow us on the socials at Toronto Third, both on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also follow us on Blue Sky as well, Toronto Third Blue Sky. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast from. That includes Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple. And of course, our friends at Podbean. And of course, if you see us on YouTube, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe, and hit that bell because we be hitting you with new videos every week. Got the right hand of the king himself, aka the Fedora Man, aka Mr. Stereo Girl, aka Avery Lewis McDougal III, out here in these streets. Avery, what's going on?
Not much of you. It's the fourth. You're one off, sir.
Wait, you're the fourth one now?
I've explained this to you so many times. There's only two of us by the
Listen,
fourth.
I was trying to make you feel nice, right? Like that.
I've explained to you how many times on this show how the number system works in the family.
That's crazy. Shit. All right, excuse my language. Avery Lewis McDougal the fourth, Esquire, VC, ABCDEFG, out here in these streets. Nah, Avery, what's good though? You good?
No, I am good. Yes, we're seeing spring finally emerge in Edmonton. The snow's finally going away out here.
And hopefully, the oil sands don't run dry in Rogers Place. You know what I mean?
Oh boy, well, that's a whole different can of worms right there, sir.
Hey, it could be worse. Like the buds aren't blooming out here in Ontario, so it is what it is. Speaking of Toronto, we got the Hood General himself, aka the most sharply dressed father out here in these streets, aka Troy Piper Boyle. Troy, what's going on?
Well, if you can hear me over my daughter screaming her head off doing her hair, I am doing great. I mean, other than being called particular things at my job yesterday that nobody should ever be called. I'm okay. I am super tired. I am just past the midway point of doing 2 straight weeks. So on Friday is my day off. So I plan on spending most of my day doing nothing. I
Oh
am
boy.
putting my work. I am blocking my work for 24 hours. Anybody I work with is getting blocked. You can't reach me. You can't see me until Saturday. How
Fair
are
enough.
you? How is everything with you, Dave? A long time no see. Glad to see you back.
I'm glad to be back, and you know what? My new digs are great. Although I'm missing my desk right now. Hopefully, I can get some stuff in storage and be operational in here instead of looking like I fought through nothing but totes from Home Depot. So, hopefully I can get everything squared away. At least I have a bed that I can sleep on. At least my clothes are in a closet. My TV's not up on the wall yet, but of course, shout out to Amazon for the next wall mount that's coming on. That's coming through. Um, Things are good. I'm getting better, one day at a time, if not one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, if not 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. You know, they always say every second is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Bam! Let's go. Anyways, um, yes, folks, I had to take a little bit of a hiatus due to mental health reasons, and of course, trying to move in the lovely province of Ontario, where the crackhead, I mean the premier of Doug Ford, known as Doug Ford, out here trying to make life miserable. And you know what? Like the man's sense of moral and ethical, standards are just like his weight room. They're barely touched. So it is what it is. Anyways, we got a great show for you lined up tonight. First things first, the Department of Player Stupidity strikes again. This time in a worse way. And I think we're kind of sick of it at this point. We're also going to have a little bit of a somber message for a member of the P-Dub media. Very tragic story coming out of Minnesota. And of course, we also want to know who would have a better fade in the NHL. And I'm not talking about catching lefts and catching rights. I'm talking about getting a good lineup. But before we get into that, I mean, speaking of good lineups, your boy has gotten a good lineup, and of course, trying to get his Grays out of these streets, just it doesn't it feels weird, like before you jump in this episode, guys, like I gotta ask, like, yo, like, has your barber ever dyed up your hair one time just to make you feel like you look like you're 25 instead of like you're looking like you're 50?
The last time I saw a barber was 2019 when we won the NBA championship. It's the last time a barber saw me. I do my hair myself, or Coda does it.
Avery, you don't catch a lineup one time, do you?
Of course I got a lineup, but worrying about grays or anything like that? Nah, I embrace my grays, baby. I embrace the gray hair.
I
You know, we
mean,
tr- we try to be.
you're out here looking like the black cousin of the Six Flags man from like say however many years ago.
Listen here, Mr. Roblox shaped head. Yo, the man out here with a head, you got a head longer than a poorly rendered PS1 game, Dave. I wouldn't be talking.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh man.
I'm good over here. My lady likes the salt and pepper look, so
No, like I mean,
I
again,
don't need.
nah, like okay, like this is a little bit of the blackness thing that we're gonna tie into today's episode real quick. But like obviously as brothers, it's like when you have that salt and pepper look, like you like
Mhm.
it's very difficult to try and maintain it because it's like when you see the white come in, obviously you're gonna get the obvious joke here and there from another enough group of your brothers out here where it's just like, well, we're not going to mention it on air, obviously, but I mean, you kind of get the drift of it. But at the same point in time, it's like having that season look is kind of crazy, you know?
Mhm.
And
I
sometimes,
call them strands of wisdom.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, I call it like seasoning. I call it leveling up seasoning, where it's just like, you go through enough stress in your life and, like obviously you level up by the amount of white hairs of the spots of white hair on your face. But like, it is what it is. There are some men out here who are in their 40s and it's like it's all white down here and they look darker than me. And it's just like, okay, cool. This man's a wizard at this point. But I mean, again, it's like us as brothers, like it's very hard for us to embrace our grays without being roasted by our parents one time. Be like, how come you can't look younger? How come you can't look young enough so that you can actually get a wife instead of looking like you deal with stress every day for like 5 minutes? You know?
So that's not a discussion happening among my family.
No, no, that's fair. I mean, like I'm again, most of us, like I said, most brothers in this situation, it's like
Mhm.
sometimes we'll have parents who will just be like, oh, like you have a seasoned beard that looks great. There are sometimes you'll have parents who will look at you and be like, why can't your facial hair be like as dark as you? Like no, and like I don't mean it in a joking sense. It's like what I'm trying to say is that like obviously you don't want to look older than you already are. You know.
No, my dad thinks it's funny. He's just like you're catching up because he's got a whole beard full of gray hair. He's like you're catching up.
No, it's just openly hilarious. But in any event, actually, we're gonna just tie this into this whole topic here, and we're actually gonna start off with this topic here.
Mm.
Who in the NHL would look better with a fade, and who would look ugly with a fade in the NHL? Now, first things first, I gotta go with my man Ryan Reeves. Even though the man's out here throwing death flies left, right, and center, the man could do it while he's looking crispy. If you know, like if you know what I mean, just nice box fade, just right there, and it's just get a little ear taper right here, and it's just it's done. I'd probably say he would actually look better with a fade in the NHL. Wouldn't you agree?
He's done before actually. He did use it in Sounds all the time. He did it he did it with the Golden Knights often, Ryan Reeves. So he's done fade before with Vegas and St. Louis. He's done before and it looks good.
Troy, thoughts?
Ah, player with a who would look good with a fade?
Like, I mean, I'm going with Ryan Reeves. I mean, I could also say Keandre Miller would probably look decent with well, he would look decent with a lineup if he keeps the afro.
It's hard to say for me because I don't really see a lot of these. I don't really see a lot of these guys without their helmets on, right? So like,
Yeah.
I don't know who's got a good head of hair, who doesn't, who could use a fade, or who wouldn't. But I don't know. I would like to see Brad Marchand rock a fade once. See what that looks like.
Yo, that would just hurt my soul.
Given that Travis Kelsey dating a black woman look.
Oh, jeez.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's like wanting William Nylander to show up with box braids during a practice at the
You
Ford.
know what? Willie would probably be another one too. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, he'd probably look good. If he can pull off braids, he can pull off a fade.
It has to be someone who's fashionable. So my pick is actual real one, Mikhail Sergachev. Have you seen Mikhail Sergachev's outfit this year? That he has this year been the most fashionable guy in the NHL. He has a stylist, by the way, but Mikhail Sergachev understands his fits, his looks. So if he wanted to get a fade to go with that, I think he could pull it off for a white European dude.
Now, who will look worse with a fade is the better question. I'm gonna say Jack Hughes because his face is too long. His face is too long for a haircut like that.
Jack Hughes is absurd.
What? Where am I wrong?
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm trying to picture. I'm trying to just like. I'm saying it's absurd because I know it would look so. It would look so out of place on him. It would look.
Is
That's
that the
why I
one?
agree with you.
Is that the Hughes brother who cut himself? No, keep him away from sharp objects.
Yes, that is Jack. Yes, Jack is the one who.
Whether he's doing it himself or not, keep him away from sharp objects.
That's funny.
Now you know what the problem is though. You know what the problem is with that, Troy, is after the fade is done, he would demand that the trimmers go to his dad.
To collect the shaving tool used.
Uh,
It's a once in a lifetime thing. Everybody wants the clippers.
why are you going back to the barber shop? I don't
Right?
understand that.
That's like no, that's just wild, man. It's like you play a sport, you score the winning goal, it goes to the Hall of Fame. Why would you ask for it back? That's like me giving a gift to Avery and then asking for it back just because I want the money back because I didn't like giving it to you in the first place.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, Jack. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He was blissfully unaware that like the IHF or the IIHF and the NHL, they have different sets of rules and standards when it comes to donating things to the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well,
And like I love how like him and the team media tried to backtrack what he said was after it was explained to him. Like, oh, well, I didn't know that, and blah blah blah. He's just like, I just wanted to know where it was. Listen, bro, everybody and their mama heard what you said. You were pissed that you didn't get that puck, and just admit it. You didn't understand what the process was, and when you got corrected by the Hockey Hall of Fame themselves, they made your ass look stupid.
You
like
mean
yeah,
he doesn't already look stupid? Like
I mean, aside from that,
I mean, you know what's even worse with that? The fact that the Hughes family they lived in Toronto for about 5 years. Jack, you probably went to Hall of Fame when you were a kid. You probably went when
at
you were a
least
kid.
once.
You know how this works.
yeah, you kind of know how this works at this point, man. You can't really be that stupid.
Like, how do you think these things got there, bro? Do you think they're all
Bro,
replicas?
like what? You're gonna cry about the fact that like the American silver medal from the Vancouver 2010 games is in there because it doesn't belong there. Like one of the players actually donated it for the hell of it. What? You're gonna go ask for it back too and go give it to the guy who like, basically donated it because you're an idiot? Like, what's wrong with you?
You know who didn't complain? Megan Keller, who scored the
Sidney
winning goal for
Crosby?
Megan Keller, who scored the winning goal for the U.S. against Canada. She didn't complain when the puck went to the Hall of Fame, where it is now. I didn't see women's team saying, "Where's the puck?"
This really goes to show that American women are actually smarter than American men, and that's like the true statement possible.
Uh,
But I digress at this point, man. Anyways, actually, hold up. There's another player that I would be afraid to see with a fade, like the
Uh-oh.
Chuck brothers. Dog, like yo, looking at the both of them look like extras from the Goonies from 1984, and it's just like the second you see them like with any type of haircut, it's just like it's just like it's like looking at a nightmare in real life.
But they got two different shaped heads though. Matthew's got a head that looks like something fresh out of Minecraft, and Brady looks like one of those the Cadbury Easter eggs. Like you can't do nothing with those. Even if you could, it's just gonna make them look more like a Cybertruck. We can't do that. They're embarrassing enough as it is. Are we trying to embarrass them some more? I mean, quietly, yes, but
Oh my God.
I
I mean,
mean,
you know what? I
you
mean,
gotta keep in mind the shape of somebody's head,
Oh my
and they
God.
don't got the headspace for it.
black barbers are magicians, but it would be asking a lot to make a fade look good on their heads.
You know how barbers are always raising their prices for haircuts? If I had to do one of them, yeah, you bet I'd be asking for some green and the world on top of it too. How
Right?
much for this haircut? How much you got?
Right? It's like,
Like,
I'll take your week's
the sign
paycheck,
says
thank
50
you.
bucks. That's the old price.
yeah, like
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Right?
man. There are some head shapes and styles that are not meant for a fade, and those two are not meant for a fade.
No, but they're meant for a different fade. Way too much fun on this podcast. That's crazy. All right, we're gonna shift gears to a little more of a serious tone here. Avery, I'm gonna let you take this one, considering since you are a member of hockey media spheres. I think this one hits a little bit harder at home for you, so
Mhm.
I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, I want to send condolences to Jesse Pierce, who covered the Minnesota Wild and did the podcast Bar Down Beauties. Her and her three sons passed away this morning in a house fire in Minnesota, and that is a very, very tragic thing. I didn't know Jesse personally, but I had a lot of friends who knew Jesse. I came across her on social media. I saw her work covering the wild for many, many years. Just a real tragedy, and we saw many people in the hockey media world, sports media world, reached out to offer their condolences to her family, to the hockey community in Minnesota. And again, hockey space is small. The hockey podcasting world is very small, and it didn't matter if you covered the Wild, the Oilers, the Blues, the Canucks, covered the P-Dub, you covered the Leafs, you covered junior hockey, whatever, whatever. People offer their condolences to the family, to her friends, and it's just a shame. I'm glad to see the hockey world in, of course, tragic circumstances coming together to honor someone's memory.
That is a heartbreaking situation. We also found out that they lost their dog in that situation too.
hmm And also, there is now a GoFundMe online actually that's been up that's offering support for Jesse's husband to try and help a hurting family right now.
And I think that's what hockey culture should be and should always be. You know, despite your various rivalries, like you should also look into the situation and be like, okay, how can we be a decent human being in this situation, especially when it comes to tragic events like this?
Condolences from my family to theirs. Like I had seen a whole bunch of things before I had actually found out what had happened. Um, I I feel for the husband for sure because like he just lost his entire world
Mhm.
in the blink of an eye. Um, I don't know much about Jesse, but from what I've seen from her fellow peers in her industry, in the journalism industry, um, she'll be missed by her peers, everyone that she's ever come in contact with. Her children will as well. Um, I know it's gonna be hard for the husband, but I I hope that they're sometime soon you will see the sunshine again, because I know that there is going to be several dark days ahead for him. I just hope that he has some strong family members that can help him get through this, because nobody deserves to lose family in such a manner, especially your wife and children.
Exactly. Um, like I said, like sometimes like having your allegiances to certain things really just don't need to be necessary in this situation. Of course, our heart does go out to her family and also to say various members of the Minnesota Wild organization as well. Um, that's very heartbreaking to lose a member of the family in that situation. So, of course, prayers up, and hopefully Jesse Price's husband can find some solace that the hockey community is going to come together and help him through this very difficult time. Hopefully, Minnesota Wild can actually look into that situation as well and see what they can do to help him. So, all right, we are going to move on to our last topic here for the evening, and this has been a very eye-opening situation. In fact, it's been a very unfortunate developing situation within the NHL. Of course, the Department of Player Stupidity has struck again, and it has struck in a worse way. Of course, with the recent comments by Connor McDavid saying that, there needs to be a little more scrutiny, or sorry, I guess a little more of an audit with how the Department of Player Safety is handling things in the NHL. We're starting to understand that, I guess the MO behind everything is that, everyone everyone from, say, the GMs or the owners are extremely happy with the situation. But it's starting to become a problem where you're seeing you're seeing people actually get hurt to the point where it's like they could potentially be paralyzed. And of course, yesterday's incident was no different. Folks, AJ Greer of the Florida Panthers had decided to go after Connor Zary from the Calgary Flames. Uh, just hit him from behind and nearly put him through the boards to the point where he ended up paralyzed during a game on Saturday night. Now, of course, AJ Greer was supposed to be subject to a hearing by the Department of Player Safety. It's just come out that he's only going to be receiving a 3-game suspension. Now, as a hockey fan, and folks, excuse my language when I say this, but what the ever living fuck is going on in this situation? Like, you cannot expect a department of play a department that looks after these players and makes sure that they don't die on the ice to come up with such I guess a blatant disregard for not only the rules of the game but also for every single player that's involved. Like, if this kid were paralyzed from the waist down, what would you give him? 5 games and 5 games and a fine? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't understand where George the Parrot Paris can come up with half of these stupid punishments. Like, for example, Radko Gudas getting 5 games for tearing out Matthews MCL, and Matthews is out for 12 weeks only because of the fact that he hates the Leafs. Like, are you kidding me? You got called out by not only the best player in the league, and you have to have not only the commissioner of the league, but also say, the deputy commissioner say, oh, George is doing a great job. We don't need to audit the Department of Player Safety. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's going to become a situation where a situation of attrition where, say, if these players end up not getting punished for these egregious hits, where it's oh, knee on knee hit, guy gets an MCL tear and an ACL tear, oh, let's just throw him 5 games because he's a repeat offender. I'm sorry, you threw the book at Nazem Kadri how long ago? I mean, yes, it was partially deserved, but you threw the book at him because essentially he kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. Whereas Gudas is doing the same thing over and over and over again, and all he's getting is 5 games. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know how many times this guy has been hit in the head by a random errant check, or the fact that he hasn't been kneed in the head as a baby too many times. But this man really needs to figure his shit out. I'm sick and tired of I'm sick and tired of this. Like, somebody's going to die on the ice, and when somebody dies on the ice, it's going to be a class action suit for the NHL to deal with. But again, I'm just ranting here. Avery, I want to hear your thoughts on this real quick.
You know, I don't want to say I can't believe the Department of Player Safety got this wrong again. It's very believable. It's very believable they mangled this again. Because that's what all they've been doing the past while here is getting these suspensions wrong. That was a clear cut. Okay, two players going to the puck, a race for the puck. AJ Greer extends his arms, hit from behind to Kanazari into the boards. That entire process is a dangerous one. That entire process is an egregious attempt to injure. How is that only 3 games? I want to hear George Parros in the league come out and say how a player being hit from behind, head first into the boards, is only 3 games. I want a complete breakdown as to why it is not a double-digit game suspension. I said on Twitter, this should have been 13 games. We should have been starting with 10. This should have been 10 plus. 3 is horrible. And yes, the Malkin slash was bad. It got 5 games. And that was deserved. But that should have been way more than a Malkin slash. This should have been double digits. Only 3 is not going to fix anything. It's only going to show more players that, oh, the league doesn't care about real discipline, so I can get away with whatever nonsense and only risk missing 3 to 5 games. How are you going to improve player safety? Oh, I'm sorry. This tells a lot of people who watch hockey that player safety isn't that important. Maybe it's not what you intend. Maybe you don't want to come across that way. But anybody else with eyes who saw that, who can process that, feels that way. Rightfully so.
Troy, as we see you with your son Atticus here, we want to hear your thoughts, considering you are a hockey player right now. One, and two, the fact that, like, say, if your kids are going to get into hockey and they're like, what, say, let's just say they make the professional league, and George the dumbass Parros decides to be, I don't know, the head of like player safety in your league. How would you feel about that situation?
I'm pulling my kids. Straight up, I'm pulling my kids. I hate the fact that in back-to-back weeks, we've had to address George Parros. Normally it's like a couple times a season thing for us, but as far as I can remember, this is the first time that we've had to address him in back-to-back episodes. And I absolutely hate that we had to address him in back-to-back episodes because he's taking up a segment we could have happily spent on somebody else for some positivity, because we're a positivity podcast. But George Parros, you have led us down this road again, one more time. And hopefully tomorrow, Gary Bettman doesn't trot your sorry ass in front of the media again so you can tell us more lies. So before we started recording, I decided I was going to do a little bit of homework on just this season. Now, it should be noted that George Parros, he got hired at the start of the 2017-18 season. So anything that happened before that wasn't necessarily his fault. Everything since, that's all on you, buddy. So, let's get started. So, this season alone, there from September 30th to March 17th of this year, there has been 31 total fines, equaling $224,478.30. 29 player fines, 1 coach fine, 1 team fine. Do you want to guess which team got the fine and which coach got the fine? I'll give you one guess. You'll only need one.
The Leafs?
Nope. Same state.
You mean same province?
Sorry. No, sorry. This team plays in the East, They're in our division.
This is the Panthers?
No, Tampa. John Cooper got fined and Tampa Bay got fined, and I'm counting like I guess like the end of preseason stuff because that's what Wikipedia is telling me. Tampa Bay has been fined 7 times between end of September and St. Patrick's Day. 7 times. The Florida Panthers, they've been fined a measly 4 times for the amount of times that we've seen them do something egregious throughout the season. For them to be only fined 4 times is laughable. Anton Lundell got fined twice, Brad Marchand, and AJ Greer, the same dude who just got the ridiculous 3 games. When it comes to suspensions, from October 6th to March 13th, 19 total suspensions, totaling, and this is counting the AJ Greer suspension. It totals $1,167,578.12 in fines, 164 games, which equates to 6 preseason, 161 regular season games. Tampa Bay has had 2 players suspended for a total of 6 games. Florida's had 1 player suspended for 3 games, and that's AJ Greer. Now, with basically a Florida Panther appearing on the highlights every week of doing something they shouldn't and getting nothing, this is insane. Let's go to Radko Gudas, since he is one of the prime reasons why we're discussing him. We're discussing George Peros in general in back-to-back weeks. Radko Gudas, he has been suspended 5 times in his career, including the one that he just got. He has been suspended 5 times for 26 games. 3 games in 2015 for an illegal check to the head of Mika Zibanejad. He got 6 games in 2016 for interference in Austin Cernak. He got 10 games in 2017 for slashing Matthew Perreault in the neck. Why is he still playing? You slash a dude in the neck? No, goodbye, you're done. But they decided to see it differently. He got 2 games in 2019 for high-sticking Nikita Kucherov, and then obviously he just got the 5 games for kneeing Austin Matthews. Now, I want to go to the statement about why he thought the Gudas hit only deserved 5 games, even though, the repeat offender thing technically doesn't come into play because I guess they give you like a 7-year window, like it's a credit score for some reason. But George Peros, he claims, and I quote, he says, in an attempt to make a defensive play on Matthews, Gudas leads with his knee, jutting it forward and making forceful direct contact with Matthews, causing him to fall to the ice. We acknowledge Gudas' assertion that he's attempting to make a full body check and prevent a goal. But this contact cannot be excused as play in which evasive or sudden movement by either player are the primary knee-on-knee contact. If he wants to deliver this hit, the onus is on Gudas to ensure that he makes an approach that allows him to deliver a legal full body check. That, in that statement, just by itself, why does that only warrant 5 games? Did you actually watch the play, George? Did you blink? Did you change the channel? Did you pause? Did somebody mess up your DVR? Because I don't know which replay you saw. What's considered... Okay, so then... if you go into the NHL rulebook, Article 18.2 in the CBA between the NHL and the NHLPA says, and I quote, in deciding on supplementary discipline for on-ice conduct, the following factors will be taken into account. A, the type of conduct involved, conduct in violation of league playing rules, and whether the conduct is intentional or reckless and involves the use of excessive and unnecessary force. Players are responsible for the consequences of their actions. B, injury to the opposing players involved in the incident. C, the status of the offender, and specifically, whether the player has a history of being subject to supplementary discipline for on-ice conduct. Players who repeatedly violate league playing rules will be more severely punished for each new violation. D, the situation of the game in which the incident occurred, for example, late in the game, lopsided score, prior events in the game. E, such other factors may be appropriate in the circumstances. So, knowing all of that, that's in the CBA, in the rule book, again, Uh, every single one of us with working brain cells are confused as to how you landed on 5 games. Why was this not an in-person hearing? Like regardless of the repeat offender rule, like the rule clearly states if you have history, that should come into play. This clearly did not. You know, um, like even the NHL rulebook, they define a repeat offender as somebody who's it says a player is considered a repeat offender for 18 months following his most recent incident that resulted in a suspension. His status as a repeat offender in this category is used to determine the amount of salary forfeited should he receive another suspension. It is important to note that even if a player is not defined as a repeat offender, his past history may come into consideration when determining future supplemental discipline. Now, with the AJ Greer thing, because even though he was only fined, I'm surprised that that didn't come into play for his suspension.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am still blown away, shocked and appalled that both of these things warranted 5 games or less. I showed when I was at work today. I showed the AJ Greer hit to all of my coworkers. None of them are into the hockey like I am. Most of my coworkers are soccer people, but they know I love hockey. So I show them the hockey hit. I go to them. What do you think this is worth? All of them, all of them said this is worth at least 10. And they're like, how many games do you think he's gonna get? So I explained to them in person versus over the phone hearing, and all of them were just like, this shouldn't even be a question. Like, you don't need a phone hearing for this. Like, this should be cut and dry. This is because they were just like, he's feet away from the boards. It's square on the numbers, and you cross check him with full force into the boards, and so now like when you go back and you look at this, even as an outsider, and you find out that he got 3 games for this. As an outsider, you're looking at this and you're going, this is a joke of a league. Like you can straight up drill somebody in the numbers a foot away from the boards and get a slap on the wrist. What are we showing to people who want to play hockey? If hockey is for everyone, you got to make it safe for everyone, including the people that are on the ice, off the ice, all of them. And shame on you, Gary Bettman, because Avery and I said this last week. This is all going to eventually circle back to Gary Bettman, and right now it's doing exactly that. Gary Bettman, shame on you for dismissing such a serious topic, and shame on you for trying to bully Eric Klosky in the GM meetings last week. How fucking dare you? That man stood up for his players. He stood up for all the other teams, but everybody else was just like, oh, it doesn't affect me. Yeah, right. When it's your player that goes down, you're gonna be like, oh, Eric Toluski was right. And he's gonna be like, no, get off my bandwagon. You had your chance. You jumped off. Shame on you, Gary Bettman, for casting aside the one guy with the biggest balls in that damn room to say, you know what, enough of this. Avery and I said last week, what needs to happen? What exactly needs to happen for these two to take this seriously? I'm sorry for the cursing, but that really pisses me off. To see people constantly being, I get it, hockey's it can be a dangerous sport. So are all the other contact sports. But when you control how you hit somebody and you choose not to, and you choose to play reckless, like this isn't, like the slap fights or the things we've seen recently with like the rugby players running in a straight line to see who can knock each other out. This isn't a game like that. These are people's lives that we're talking about, people's livelihoods. People depend on this game to make their money, to support their families, their businesses, all the other stuff that they get to enjoy with, being a professional athlete. By not protecting your players, you are ruining quality of life for them and their families and everyone involved. Hockey is already an expensive sport. You like we not only should we be making things cheaper for people of all walks of life to play, We should be making it safer, and the NHL needs to put their foot down and lead by example. They're not doing that. They're only doing what appeases to them in that specific moment. They're letting the owners decide what's right and what's wrong. As the commissioner, you need to take that right from them. They might be the guys who own the teams who are in your league. You are still the boss. Do your damn job. Because if any of us were to do any of this other nonsense in any of our other jobs, why does Gary Bettman get a pass? The next bargaining agreement, which I believe is at 2027, it has to include the removal of everybody in the Department of Player Safety, and it has to include the removal of Gary Bettman. I will not accept anything otherwise.
You know, Troy, I look at this, I think to myself, the players' union has to be doing a lot more. The players' union should be outraged in terms of how discipline is handled. And I understand that, yes, you know, it comes out of your pocket. I understand you don't want to lose money. But at what point do you stand up for your brothers further? I understand, yes, you know, suspensions are tough. But at what point do you stand up for your fellow brothers when it comes to not just, yes, guys who committed certain acts, but the guys who have been hit? Because again, boarding is one of the most egregious plays you can do. And a hit from behind like that, you are taught, we all know, you are taught from age 5 to not do that. You are taught, how many years have we been putting the little stop patches on jerseys for kids who play hockey in North America? For generations, we have seen at multiple levels of hockey players who have been paralyzed for hits like that. And it goes to show there's a lack of even worse. Connor Zary and AJ Greer were former teammates. Even worse, you're doing that to a former teammate of yours. And the lack of respect on that play was beyond disgusting. And the fact that George Peros, the part of player safety, saw that as only worth 3 games and not an act to throw the book at somebody. I know Brendan Shanahan, back in his tenure, Shanahan, for all of, you know, his faults when he ran the Lean Police, as the head of player safety, Brendan Shanahan would have given AJ Greer at least 15 games, maybe 20, for how he handled things back in that department. What is happening now is not enough for a dangerous act. And sometimes this league punishes based on the result or based on injury, which shouldn't be how that happens. They do it sometimes. The act itself needs to be punished because that is so egregious. And Connor Zary, at the time of this taping, isn't playing right now for Calgary. He got up on his own. He got up, you know, he could skate off with some help. But that could have been 1,000 times worse than him just skating off with some help. That could have been 1,000 times worse. So what's it going to take, George Peros? Do you need somebody off on a stretcher? Do you need somebody? Do you need the worst case to happen? Because it seems in sports, we don't learn a thing until the worst case happens, especially hockey. We don't learn a thing until the absolute worst happens. Look at 2 years ago. And I don't want to deviate too much, but I'll go on this quickly. Neck guards. I'm sorry, guys. NHLPA, I'm sorry. This grandfathering stuff is BS. That is a piece of equipment that should be, some days NHLPA has to look at themselves and say, you know what? We have to say this should be mandatory. I don't care about no more grandfathering. Fellas, we saw the worst case scenario happen in hockey. We saw Adam Johnson die on live television due to a neck cut.
Mm-hmm.
And a neck guard in the NHL still is not mandatory. It's only mandatory for those coming into the league. I'm sorry. The next day, when that happened, when that footage came out, there need to be a unified front from both the NHLPA and the NHL saying neck guards are now mandatory. Don't like it, tough. The Department of Player Safety needs a total house cleaning because George Peros could have regained some goodwill with the hard suspension of AJ Greer. And surprise, 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 he failed again. He needs to resign.
It goes to show how how insignificant a lot of these hirings are in the NHL because going from someone who was not only by the book but also throwing the hammer down when it came to situations like this to basically a giant in George Peros, it creates a real contrast as to what the NHL really wants to do. They just want to be able to have their players injured, and just not really give a shit anymore. I mean, again, that's just my opinion in this situation. Ideally speaking, though, like to go into a situation where you're basically paralyzing essentially a former teammate and only getting 3 games for it is downright laughable. And in all honesty, like, I mean, you should not be in your position. I sincerely hope that he gets fired, or I hope the NHLPA finally gets off their ass, files a class action lawsuit, and actually gets the ball rolling, where we can finally get Gary Bettman out as commissioner of the NHL and George Peros as the head of the Department of Player Safety. Because if it literally takes a player dying on the ice for them to finally do something, then we've gone way too far in this situation. And that's just my 2 cents on that. What I will say is this: the NHLPA, you guys are a bunch of cowards right now. Do better. Genuinely, do better in that situation. Like, do better in that situation. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyways, we're going to finish this off real quick. It looks like the Pacific Division is the weakest division in the NHL right now. And of course, Connor David has gone on record to say that the Pacific Division is nothing more than just a pillow fight. As, say, the best team in that division right now only has 80 points. Yet, the worst team in the Eastern Conference, or sorry, let me rephrase that. The second worst team in the Eastern Conference, which happens to be the Toronto Maple Leafs, can actually get a playoff spot in that division. How is this even possible at this point? Because what? There's 15 games left in the regular season, 14 or 13, depending on which team you are. But how is it that, like, say, it literally just takes you 80 points to get a playoff spot in the NHL? Troy, really quickly, like, what type of marshmallow-esque nonsense are you dealing with in the NHL here?
Hard to say, really. I mean, like, it's weird that like the Pacific is allegedly such a weak division. Have had the Leafs been in the Pacific Division with this current roster? Yeah, they're probably still on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
The way the roster's constructed. But yeah, it just shows that anything's up, like it's up for grabs all the time. Um, 90 points used to be like the bare minimum to get in, and now that's just what it is for that one specific division. 90 points is just good enough. Or is that's like the marker there. Whereas in other divisions, you need at least 96. But I feel like if you get rid of that loser point,
Mm-hmm.
that division might look a little different. Avery, what about you?
As someone whose job entails me watching this division night in and night out, I think also too the Olympic break, the Olympic schedule has impacted these teams a lot, but the lack of consistency among everybody in that division is just jarring. Because again, right now, the division leaders, Anaheim, wouldn't be in a playoff spot in anywhere else. Same for Edmonton, same for Vegas, and same for the teams chasing them, teams like the Kings and Kraken. It is just nutty. It's absurd to see how none of these teams can just get a consistent foothold and strengthening together that's really longer than 3 or 4 games. We saw Vegas, they're banged up. Mark Stone, again, is on LTIR. Leon's out for the Oilers. This is a division that is so bizarre, but you know what? You know what's going to happen again, guys? Because the NHL is such an absurd league, you're going to see it's going to be an Eastern team in the final taking on a team from the Pacific come June. This is going to work out again.
But like, this playoff format is godforsaken terrible. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this because it's like, how are we gonna sit here and say like, oh, well, we have like three of the top teams, and then the top two of the bottom two of the top three teams will face each other in the first round, and then we'll have this wild card nonsense. It's like, are you kidding me right now? What is this? What is this nonsense? Like the whole 1 through 8 process was actually like what 10 times better than this rotten cream pie of a fucking playoff system. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm done with this episode. So, anyways, Avery, Troy, thank you very much for coming through on this episode tonight. And folks, we want to thank you, the listener. You know, we deal with a lot of nonsense as it is, but you know what? We're just like you. We're tired. Like, not even tired of this nonsense. And it just, I think we need a break. I think we need to walk away from this right now. So until then, thank you for letting us grace the space in between your head top. Go drink some water. Mind your business. We'll see y'all next week. Good night.